Chapter 4. Pivoting from playing the victim. Even in your darkest hour, practice gratitude. After a very trying time spent overcoming the accident, life began to settle and we created our new normal. Alyssa underwent another eye surgery and was successfully able to see straight without a prism on her glasses. She even got her deviated septum fixed and was able to breathe normally again. My 4-year contract was up on the show, and after everything we had endured, I decided it'd be nice to take a break from acting. In late August of 2015, I had been off the show for months and we were living solely off our business profits. We were craving a change of scenery and wanted to get out of the hustle and bustle of the city. We were looking into South Florida and thought it would be the perfect spot to recharge our batteries and begin a new chapter of our lives. The only problem was, I was still on probation and couldn't leave the county. We started researching and found that with good behavior, I could potentially have my probation terminated after completing 50% of the sentence. We felt confident that there was a good chance of this happening. After looking into the details, we knew up front that the move to Florida would be expensive, but the cost of living would be less and we could support ourselves with our business. There was also opportunity in South Florida which could provide a great market for our anti-aging business. With our California lease coming to an end and in hopes of getting off probation early, we decided to move forward with the Florida transition. In retrospect, talk about terrible planning. Without the luxury of the days of our lives' income, our savings was slowly dwindling. Between the cost of surgeries, the lawyer, and fines, we didn't have as much as we once did. I didn't care. I just wanted a fresh start. I called my business manager and told her I was moving and that I would no longer need her services. I thanked Linda for her help, and we parted ways. A month before finalizing details for the Florida move, I received a call from the producer at Days of Our Lives. To my surprise, he asked me if I would like to come back to the show. I expressed my excitement and told him I would get back to him ASAP. Alyssa and I talked it over, weighing and exploring all of our options. Would we commute? Should we cancel the move to Florida? Or should I pass altogether? After taking in every possibility, Alyssa and I decided the best move was to sign a contract with Days for another year. The commute from California to Florida would only be temporary. December 2015 quickly approached and we moved everything to Florida. My probation officer and supervisor permitted me to leave town for 1 month. As Alyssa and I were putting our new apartment together, we took a break to sit outside on the patio. The warm weather felt amazing on our skin and things were finally looking up. We celebrated a beautiful New Year's Eve in our Florida home, reflecting on the past year and the blessings in our life. It was perfect. Or so we thought. The phone call. A week after ringing in 2016, I received a phone call that completely caught me off guard. It was the Employee Development Department. They first confirmed that I was Frederick M. Smith and then proceeded to tell me I owed $17,000 in overdue payroll taxes. I immediately explained this must be a mistake. I had always paid my taxes. The EDD went on to say there was no error and their records indicate I owed $17,000. I immediately picked up the phone to call my ex-business manager, Linda. The phone continued ringing and my heart was thumping out of my chest. How could this be? There had to be a mix-up of some sort. She didn't answer. Over the next few days, we tried tirelessly to reach her, but Linda was ghosting us. Alyssa and I went into full sleuth mode and searched for any connections on the internet. We eventually found her associate, Phil, on LinkedIn. We picked up the phone and called him. Alyssa and I put the phone on speaker and dialed Phil's number. As the phone began to ring, we locked eyes. Would he answer? On the very last ring, feeling defeated, I went to hang up the phone. Right as I was clicking to end the call, I heard a voice on the other end. It was Phil. I explained to him about the phone call I'd received and how concerned we were. Phil was silent for a moment. After taking a deep breath, he replied, "Freddie, I am so sorry to be the one to have to break this news to you. Linda is a con artist. Not only was she stealing money from her clients, but she was committing tax fraud, even against me." We sat there with our mouths hanging wide open. How could this be? I jumped into the conversation exclaiming, "Phil, there's no way. I am obsessed with numbers and check everything down to the cent." Still on the phone, I logged into my bank accounts and confirmed there had been no money stolen. After explaining this to Phil, he gave me the name and number of another client of Linda's who was spearheading the entire investigation. There was a sizable group of actors who had all been victims. Phil wanted me to double-check with her. After hanging up with Phil, we anxiously dialed the number of a woman named Teresa. She picked up the phone, and we explained the phone call we had received from the EDD and that Phil had given us her number. Teresa couldn't have been kinder, but she didn't have good news. I was now the 9th person to call her and report this information. As I explained to Phil, I told Teresa that I observed my finances very carefully, and she couldn't have stolen anything. Teresa told me to call the IRS and see if my taxes had been paid and to look through my bank accounts with a fine-tooth comb. We hung up and urgently called the IRS. Our stomachs were in knots. After what felt like hours, the IRS confirmed that my 2013, 2014, and 2015 taxes had never been filed. I instantly relogged into my bank accounts and discovered all of the money I thought was being transferred out of my account to pay taxes had been moved directly into Linda's bank account. $52,000 to be exact. The next day, we called an accountant to get guidance on what to do next. Before we could determine what I owed the IRS for 2013, 2014, and 2015, we had to recreate 3 years of expense ledgers. We did this by going to the bank, printing out statements, and re-entering every single debit and credit card transaction for the past 3 years. The grand total I owed to the IRS was $71,000. Between the $52,000 that Linda had stolen, the grand total I owed to the IRS was $71,000 in taxes. I also owed the IRS late filing and interest fees of $16,000. Lastly, I had to hire an accountant to help sort out the financial disaster for an additional $10,000. I owed $97,000 out of pocket, and that was $97,000 we did not have. Alyssa and I had just signed a year's lease for our Florida residence in addition to renting an apartment in LA. Between this and putting away money for current 2016 taxes and surgeries for Alyssa, we were tens of thousands of dollars in the red. This was truly rock bottom. But how we handled this situation would carve the pathway for the rest of our lives. How to face tragedy when it strikes. After living through the trials and tribulations of 2014 and 2015, we recognized those were some of the most difficult times we had ever lived to date. But with all of those tragedies came learning experiences. As we grow older, the chances of undergoing a personal tragedy rise tremendously. It is unfortunately a part of life. Illness, death, getting fired, divorce, heartbreak. We all go through tragedies. But staying in control and not playing the victim is powerful beyond measure. When you're dealt a bad hand and a tragedy strikes, you have 2 options, just as Alyssa and I did. You can play the victim of circumstance and make excuses, or you can take it as a learning experience and get back in the game. Were we depressed, angry, anxious, and sad during this time? Of course we were. But only a handful of our closest friends and family knew what we were going through. There is 0 ROI for making excuses and playing the victim. You gain nothing when you feel sorry for yourself. Your relationships, work, career, and hobbies don't benefit. And if and when something like this happens to you in your life, take the time you need to grieve and talk it over with people you trust. Once that initial poison is out of your system, get back out there and reclaim your life. Don't waste any more of your precious energy on excuses, playing the victim, or what-if games. That is all in the past. Leave it there. Learn from it and take those new lessons as you move toward a more prosperous life. You can make the ultimate comeback, and we all love comebacks. Are you ready to pivot from playing the victim? Number 1, stop blaming others. You may feel temporary relief when you blame someone else, but who is that serving? In the long run, this will lead you to feel powerless and hopeless. Number 2, practice gratitude. Even in your darkest hour, practice gratitude. Things could always be worse. It is impossible to feel like a victim when you're feeling grateful. Tap into the power of gratitude during challenging times and ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? When you take these lessons to heart, you will have life-changing results. Be grateful for the lessons life offers, even the difficult ones. Number 3, forgive and let go. When we play the victim, we often hold on to negative feelings and bitterness. How can you ever move on if you continue to harness these vibes? We sometimes confuse forgiveness with letting the other person get away with something. That couldn't be further from the truth. Forgiveness is all about you. It is your response and inner strength to move beyond the pain inflicted on you. This is where you will find inner peace and freedom. Transforming your pain into compassion and empathy is where happiness is found. Let go of victimhood so you can be free.
How to get your sparkle back. Between the car accident, surgeries from 2014 and 2015, and then discovering the stolen money and unpaid taxes in 2016, it was safe to say Freddie and I had gone through the ringer. Although we continued to fight and stay strong, I had a startling realization in March of 2016. I had lost my sparkle. Freddie was in Los Angeles working on days while I was in South Florida going to meetings for our anti-aging business. We didn't want to be apart, but for the time being, we had obligations to fulfill. One afternoon, I was driving home from a meeting when I received an unexpected phone call over Bluetooth. It was a scheduled call from a customer which I had completely forgotten about. This was very unlike me. I answered the call and played it off like I had known she was calling. The customer then went on to ask me questions about one of the products. When I look back on that moment, I was on complete autopilot. I was just going through the motions. I had no sparkle. I was lackluster. I got home and entered the house feeling very zombie-like. We had a scheduled training in an hour that always fired me up. However, at this point, I just didn't care. I was tired. I was uninspired. It was that moment that I realized I had lost my sparkle. That thought terrified me, and I knew I had to find a way to get it back. 5 ways to get your sparkle back. Number 1, understand it's okay not to be okay. If something traumatic has happened to you, allow yourself to not be okay. Cry it out, be upset, let your emotions deal with the situation at hand. How can you go on to get your sparkle back if you don't confront and accept whatever lies in front of you? This is the hardest part of it all, but insanely necessary. And as a devastated Carrie asked Miranda in Sex and the City after Mr. Big doesn't show up on their wedding day, will I ever laugh again? Miranda responds, yes, when something is really, really funny. Carrie then goes on to laugh a week later as Charlotte accidentally drinks water in Mexico and has an explosive problem on her hands. Was Carrie healed? No. But it was the first step toward getting her life and sparkle back. Baby steps. Number 2, memories light the corner of my mind. Can you remember a time when you felt super special? Perhaps it was a great holiday, achieving a goal, or your wedding day. No matter the occasion, you rocked it and you totally brought it. Allow one of those memories to come to mind. As you recall the memory, envision it vividly. What did it smell like? What were you wearing? Was there a song playing? Who were you with? How do you feel as you are brought back to that time? Sit and enjoy that memory and come up with one unique word that wraps up the entire experience. Repeat that word over and over in your mind. As you do this exercise, you are creating an anchor to the past experience. Have you ever heard a specific song and it takes you back to a place in time? Whenever my mom and I hear Save the Best for Last by Vanessa Williams, it reminds us of a time when we lived at the Peach House. We always giggle over this memory. Just as my mom and I were connected to the happy Peach House memories from the song, you will be connected to the confidence you felt during your chosen memory when you hear your unique word. From this time forward, use your special sparkle word as often as you can. Strengthen the anchor to connect you back to your confident, wonderful self. Number 3, do something for you. Too often, we put off amazing, spectacular activities we would love to do because we are waiting for a time to celebrate. Well, guess what? It is time to celebrate you. Dying for a day at the spa? Going to a 5-star restaurant? Seeing the latest blockbuster to hit the theaters? The time is now. Tomorrow is not promised. Put on your best dress, suit, or yoga pants and get out there and enjoy. At the very least, you will be participating in an out-of-the-ordinary activity that boosts your spirits. Getting into different environments and having unique experiences are bound to sprinkle the sparkle back into your veins. Number 4, be your greatest cheerleader. I have found a positive mindset to be one of the most magnificent tools out there to feel your best. What are you saying to yourself in your mind? Are you giving yourself encouragement and pumping positivity into your head? Or are you continually criticizing and critiquing yourself? Regardless of your answer, the good news, we get to choose our self-talk. Believe it or not, you do have a choice. Anytime I find a negative thought creeping its way into my brain, I intentionally stop myself and flip the idea. Do your daily affirmations. Believe in yourself. Tell yourself you are a champion. Because guess what? You are. Regardless of your answer, the good news, we get to choose our self-talk. Number 5, take the lead. Often in life, when someone asks us, "Hey, what do you want to eat for dinner?" the go-to answer is, "I don't mind. What do you think?" I'm not sure why this is the default answer, but I know we have all had this response. It's almost easier to pass it back to the individual who's asking. So how is this linked to confidence and sparkle? By allowing another individual to take the lead, you are sending a compelling message to yourself that your needs come second. Ouch. How on earth can you shine if you don't value yourself? It's time to step up and take the lead. The next time someone asks you what you like to do, give yourself a moment to think about what you want and then say it. By allowing another individual to take the lead, you are sending a compelling message to yourself that your needs come second. Ouch. How on earth can you shine if you don't value yourself? It's time to step up and take the lead. The next time someone asks you what you like to do, give yourself a moment to think about what you want and then say it. Pivot into action. Are you ready to pivot from playing the victim? Answer the following questions. Number 1, what is your sparkle memory? Think back to a time when you felt incredibly special and on top of the world. As you recall that memory, envision it vividly. What did it smell like? What were you wearing? Was there a song playing? Who were you with? How do you feel as you're brought back to that time? Sit and enjoy that memory and come up with one unique word that wraps up the entire experience. Repeat that word over and over in your mind. Number 2, what special activity will you do just for you? When? Number 3, practice gratitude. Name 3 things you're grateful for.